Hi, it's me Lori and I'm back with a new video, and today I'm going to be talking about my first time. And no, not that first time, because that would be rude and inappropriate to share on YouTube. I'm going to be talking about different first times through my life, things we have all experienced, and I love watching those videos online, so I thought why not share my first times with you guys. So without further ado, let's get on with this video. My first word was dada, which is daddy in Dutch. My first sentence was actually dada dodo doen, which means daddy's going to sleep, which was very appropriate because my dad sleeps a lot. So as a young kid I already realized that, since that was my first sentence. My first friend, and I had my first friend in kindergarten, and this was a little boy with, like, if I see pictures of him now, he was such a pretty little boy, and he had blonde hair and blue eyes, and we were only about 2 years old and we were best friends, and I'm so sad that I don't see him anymore. I even don't remember his name. I will insert a picture of him quite quickly in this video, but not too long. But I hope that maybe he's watching this video and maybe he will contact me, because he was a very good friend of mine. My first teddy bear, and it's this one, and it's so big, and I have no idea how my parents bought me this when I was such a young kid, because just imagine a little baby laying across this teddy bear. I mean, that's just crazy. I will try to find a picture of me laying across this teddy bear when I was younger. I mean, this was my very first one, and it was probably about 4 times my size. My first memory, and actually my first memory, I have no idea from when it is. I just remember when we were at my great grandmother's house. She had a hill down her house, and we would just roll up the hill with all the nephews and nieces, and that was very fun to do. And that's my first real memory that I have of me as a child. My first kiss. My first kiss was, I think, in 2014 or 13, no 14, in 2014, and we were in Hungary, and it was in like this little tree house. I had no idea what was going to happen. I never saw the boy again after that holiday. But for a first kiss, I think it was pretty decent, because I heard stories about friends talking about their first kisses and how awful they were, and I think my first kiss was kind of decent. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't good either. My first airplane ride was 3 years ago, and 3 years ago I went to the Maldives with a friend of mine. And our first airplane, we had to do 2 flights to get to the Maldives, and the first flight was a 15-hour flight to Dubai, and that was my very first flight. So it was a big test, but ever since I went on that big flight I fell in love with airplane rides. My first concert, and my first concert was a concert of One Direction. Because as a young kid I was absolutely in love with One Direction, and I went to that concert with a friend of mine, my cousin and my dad, who was not happy that he had to be at that concert with us. It was a big disaster for him. My first celebrity crush, and my first celebrity crush, oh my god, it was actually a Belgian guy, because of course I live in Belgium. Oh no, I live in the Netherlands, but I go to school in Belgium, and my Belgian friends kind of influenced me in this, and his name was Niels de Stadsbater, and I will insert a picture of him. He was just, at that time I thought he was really cute. Right now he is definitely not my type anymore, but he was a singer, and he was in a TV show where he loved horses, and at that time I did also love horses, so yeah, he was definitely my first celebrity crush. My first boyfriend, actually had my first boyfriend in the 2nd year of kindergarten. That's not something you can call a boyfriend. I think my first boyfriend was about 3 years ago when I was 15 years old. My first job was in a bookstore, and I actually only held out for one day because it was an awful job and I did not like it at all. So it was a one-day job and I ended the contract after that. I just had to clean the books and lay them in order, and I don't even like reading, so that was really not a job for me. My first car, so I actually learned how to drive in a car that wasn't mine because it was in driving school, and this was in a white Mercedes CLA, so I will insert a picture of that right now. But I also, but that was a car I drove in to learn how to drive. But right now I am riding in my own car, which is a Ford Mondeo, which I will also insert a picture of. My first car accident, and my first car accident wasn't actually a big accident. It was a couple blocks away from my house and I was driving to work and I was very tired. So don't ever drive when you're tired, because I was a perfect example of what happens when you're tired and you're driving. You don't really see how far you still have and how you don't really, your estimations aren't good anymore. And I was driving through a street that is just big enough for a bike, a car and another car. So for two vehicles and one person, it's just perfect for that, but nothing more and nothing less. I was driving through that street when a guy on a bike drove past me, but he had a lot of wood on the back of his bike, and he was a little bit, it was going like that, and at one point he fell. He lost balance and he almost fell off his bike. At least I thought he was going to fall. He didn't, he just lost balance and he drove away after that. But my first instinct was to turn my steering wheel, which was probably a very bad instinct. I should have just hit my brake, but I hit my car's mirror, hit the mirror of another car who was standing still, and that was actually for me, that was my luck. I did not hit the guy on the bike. I did not hit the side of that car that left a big stain on my car. My mirror was damaged, that girl's car's mirror was damaged, but that was it. It was nothing big, nothing major, but it was kind of scary, and I was panicking, I was crying, and yeah, bad things happen like that. And I actually asked the guy on the bike to stay to witness, because you have to write down that report, and I thought his witness was going to, he was a witness, so he should have stayed, and he didn't. And I was lucky that the girl who had that other car wasn't being mad at me or being irritating, because if she had and blamed it all on me, I would have had lots of trouble if that guy did not testimony. So yeah, yeah. My first broken bone, and I have been in the ER a lot. I mean, more than an average person does, but I had never broken a bone before until last year, and it happened when I was riding my horse, because how else will it happen, right? I was riding it and he freaked out and he ran off. We were driving like this and I was not holding anything. I had loosened up and I was relaxing because I was actually quitting to ride. I was going to do one more lane and I was going to quit. And we were driving, I was driving my horse and we were just going down the right path, and at that point he jumps and he runs off like that. So he jumps and runs, and at that point I fall off my saddle. And there's only one foot in the saddle still, but I was too afraid to fall because we were leaving to Spain the next day, so I couldn't fall off. So I pulled myself up and I held on tight, and with one leg in the saddle and the rest of my body hanging off the horse, I pulled myself up. I grabbed my saddle, I grabbed my horse, and I pulled myself up. And at that moment I twisted my foot. I didn't feel it back then, but when he stopped and I had a minute to relax and calm down because it freaked me out, I realized my foot was hurting like hell. It was one of the most intense pains I have ever felt. I couldn't walk on it anymore. We had to get some x-rays, and on that x-ray they actually saw that a piece of my bone had broken off. So that's not good. It was not just a broken bone, but a piece of the bone was broken off the bone and it was just swirling around. But I actually I didn't want a cast. I said no, I don't want a cast, I will just wear a brace and ride through, because I was going to Spain. So that's what I decided to do, and because of that mistake of mine, because if I could now do that, I would never reject it and just wear a brace, because I still am in pain kind of a lot because of that. And last but not least, my first operation. And my first operation was in 2014, and I had a bit of extra bone at the back of my foot, and they had to remove it. But to remove it, they had to cut a muscle, which was very important. So they cut it and then they stitched it back up. So that's why I had to wear I was operated there, and then I had to wear a cast for 5 weeks, and I couldn't stand on my legs for 3 of them. So yeah, that were all my very first times through my childhood and me growing up into the adolescent I am right now. So that's it for this week's video. If you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to see other videos of mine, and then I will see you next week with another video. Goodbye!